Let's talk just a little bit about Bitcoin. There's been a lot of talk about the reliance of the US Treasury market on stablecoins, where
Sure.
USDT and USDC, which are the main trading pairs with Bitcoin on all the exchanges, as a dollar stablecoin, are 85% primarily backed by treasuries, the other 15% roughly dollars. Tether USDT was constantly under investigation. Everyone thought they were getting in trouble. They had Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and then all of a sudden that stopped, and now their balance sheet is almost all treasuries. So my point to you is, given the reliance of stablecoins like USDT and USDC on the US Treasury market, tying them to the traditional financial system, do you think cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin can truly disrupt legacy finance, or do they even realize that those going into these cryptocurrencies are unintentionally reinforcing it?
I like where you're going with this, Andy. I couldn't agree more. And by the way, Luke Groman kind of had a eureka moment with this too. He's openly pro gold and pro Bitcoin. So is Larry Lepard, a good friend of mine, brilliant guy. So I'm not here to poo-poo Bitcoin or mock it. We need to put it into perspective. But the short answer is, and what Luke's been kind of coming up with, I can't take any credit for it, but it makes perfect sense to me now. And the ironies abound, but I think it's almost like Bitcoin is an entry-level drug into stable coins in a desperate backdrop where cryptos have gone from being, and Bitcoin in particular has gone from being the speculation asset of a generation, the speculative tulip of a generation, if you want to be mean, to now a political tulip. That makes it a far more powerful tulip, because I think Bitcoin is really going to be inflated to inflate stable coins, so that stable coins can absorb those unwanted, unloved US Treasuries to take the pressure off the Fed and the supplementary, and all these other liquidity measures we've been doing backdoor. So in a way, if you got to reflate an asset, reflate Bitcoin, reflate stable coins, and then use that to absorb treasury that no one wants. And,
Right.
and that is so twisted and sick and so perfect for the dark state and so perfect for
It is, because the
what they
people
say.
buying would have no idea that's what they're doing.
Well, the great irony is, and look, I've spent a lot of time this year in particular, not just trying to ignore Bitcoin. Its market cap is huge. It's getting bigger. I have a huge amount of respect for Larry Lepard and his Metcalf theory. And I like, obviously Ronnie Sturfel out here in Europe, big gold guy, but also understands cryptos. I don't think it's any help just to mock crypto or to have a gold versus crypto debate. I think they're apples to oranges. I don't think it's a debate. It's a discussion. But nevertheless, I've listened to guys like Mahlers and Voorhees, obviously Saylor. He seems more like a car salesman, but that'll upset people. But he's a successful car salesman. So he's right. Right now, price is right, price is value. But even, look, and we could spend hours. Look, the bottom line is you can get on this. What is money? Is it a medium of exchange? Is it a store of value? Is it a unit of account? Crypto in general, and Bitcoin in particular, is none of those things. You can say whatever you want about it. And God knows I wish I'd bought it at 500 and kept it. Of course I do. I'm jealous as hell of the price appreciation. There's no asset class in the world that can beat its annualized returns at a 5,000% return in 2013. You can't beat its performance, but its standard deviation is over 170%. Its maximum drawdowns are over 80%, 4 times. So it's not a store of value. It's certainly not a medium of exchange. Even in El Salvador, the success story, 1% of people buy and sell things in El Salvador with Bitcoin. What Bitcoin did for El Salvador is El Salvador got the best stock price appreciation in the history of national markets and paid off its debts with that. If Bitcoin had gone to zero, you'd blow El Salvador off the map. They are the beneficiaries of speculation gains. It is not digital gold. It is not a unit of exchange. It is not a store of value by any stretch of the imagination. And don't give me the excuse they're just consolidating. Again, doesn't mean you should make fun of Bitcoin. I'm all in favor of making money in the markets and speculating. I made it on a pre-IPO in the dot-com bubble. I mean, you take some risk, you deserve some reward, and I envy it. I joke, if I had bought Bitcoin at 500, I'd have sold it at 1,000. I would have had the guts to stay in this long. So, yeah, my hats are off to these guys. And I will say, and this is not insider information, all the time in Switzerland, very, very wealthy young people come to my office who have a lot of money in Bitcoin. And we have really honest discussions. And of course, they know what it is. It's a speculation asset. They're not worried about it being a store of value for their grandkids. They're making a ton of money. And now they've made a lot. They're willing to sell a big chunk of it and put it into gold because that is money. It's not sexy. It's a little boring, but that's how they're going to stay rich. And so I'm not against speculation, but let's stop comparing these speculation assets with a store of value asset. There's nothing wrong if you have a speculation mindset. And you can even speculate in precious metals. You better be good. That's a hard thing to do. But if you're a store of value long-term thinker, as Rick Rule said, it rewards infrequently but extravagantly. Precious metals will do just fine for you. But I really do believe that they did this with oil. And this is what Luke Roman said in the 70s, 1974. Kissinger and all these other clever, weird guys came to the Gulf states and said, guys, we're going to push oil up to the moon right now. We're going to push it up 400%. And by the way, Saudi ministers admitted this 10 years ago. This isn't a conspiracy theory. We're going to push oil up 400%. Why? We have a ton of post-Vietnam debt. The oil price pegged to the dollar goes up. That erases a lot of our debt. We're going to manipulate the markets. You could make the argument, if you manipulate Bitcoin and stable coins up, that'll absorb a lot of that debt. And so there's an incentive now. And this is the great irony, because Voorhees and others said, I'm in Bitcoin because it's decentralized. I don't trust governments. I don't trust banks. I want to be free of that system. And yet Bitcoin, through stablecoins connection, is the most centralized, politicized, and government-embedded asset class there is. And it's a massive transfer of wealth for those who got in early and the majority control it. And it's going to be a tulip politicized to absorb US Treasuries. And to me, when you're relying on stable coins or even Bitcoin markets to help our debt prices, that isn't an indication of how strong Bitcoin is or stable coins. That is an indication of how desperate and debt-soaked our government is. But in the meantime, by the way, for you watching or speculators, I think Bitcoin's going to go much higher. I do. And if you want to speculate, the question is, do you know your exit ramp? Do you know when to get out? And if you do, great. And if you think it's going to go to $1 million, God bless you. I have nothing against that. I have nothing against speculation or even Bitcoin. I just don't like it when they compare it to gold. They have absolutely exploited the gold narrative to put wind beneath the narrative of Bitcoin as if it were a store of value, a unit of exchange, or real money. It never was, still isn't now, and won't be tomorrow. But it will be used as a sponge to get stable coins to sponge up unloved IOUs from a broke distributor like the United States government. And that is the height of all ironies to me. And that is not mocking Bitcoin. Honestly, go for it. I actually think Bitcoin's going to go up. But again, I see a lot of Bitcoin guys, when they're really not on a platform, say, come on, man, we know it's not gold. It's not digital gold. It is the speculation asset of a lifetime. But with that comes a lot of volatility and a lot of risk. And I think people just need to be big boys and girls about that. If they can take that risk. I'm boring. Gold isn't that risky to me. It has no standard deviation that comes close to that. But that's me.
Dude, I've been in that boring camp for 35 years. I'm all for it. I gave an interview this morning, two people this morning before you. One was Chris Powell, which I'm going to ask you about in a few minutes, and the other was Francis Hunt. And what Francis said is exactly what you're saying, that about those young kids, that he said, if you don't have an on-ramp, especially when it's going this well, you never will. He says that the dopamine rush of seeing something move up and up and up and up and up is intoxicating, and that those who don't have an off-ramp are asking for trouble. And he said the exact same thing. He said that you buy a Bitcoin not because it's gold, but because it is a massive speculation that can enrich you and your family. And he said he called it the plug your nose trade. He says you plug your nose, you do it just because you're going to be enriched, but have your off-ramp. And he was saying he thought by spring, June or July, it would be time to realize that off-ramp. And he acknowledges the place to be ultimately is in gold and silver. So to your young kids that come in that have paid all of that money, let them listen to little Francis Hunt. It's exactly what he is saying, and saying, yes, you can speculate, but don't confuse money and speculation.